Hello, everybody. It is Wednesday. We wanted to welcome you to Invest in Education Academy. Whether you're listening to the podcast or you're watching Leon and I live, we thank you for being here. For you all today, wondering what is the topic? We're going to talk about the Apple announcement of the iCar. What is it? Is it real? What does it mean for the EV marketplace? And for anybody listening, that's electric vehicle marketplace. We're going to talk about all those things. So if you have questions or you definitely want to take this moment to share with anybody that you have been discussing this deal with, because now is the time. Leon will tell you kind of why we chose it overall while I do some housekeeping.
Yeah, so some really interesting news came out on Monday. So Reuters, the publication or website news organization, published a story that Apple is possibly, it's not confirmed nor denied, is possibly building their own electric car. And it's kind of been dubbed the iCar, eCar, whatever you want to call it. I just titled it iCar. But this is really interesting because there's been talk of Apple building a car for the past 6 years. And a lot of people may or may not know that. And so, but it kind of died off. The talk kind of died off in the mid this past decade. And then it's kind of recently picked back up in the last year or so. But back in 2013, 2014, this is really big news because, iPhone was going through the roof. You had Tesla kind of ramping up the whole EV, kind of getting the whole EV market started. And then here was this talk of Apple possibly making their own electric vehicle. And so the story kind of ties two companies together. It kind of ties Tesla and it kind of ties Apple. Because so I don't know if a lot of people know, but Tesla at one point was on its deathbed. Elon Musk had basically put up all the money he essentially had to kind of like mortgage all his assets to keep Tesla alive. And at one point, he actually made a call to Apple to talk to not Steve Jobs, Tim Cook. Tim Cook about Apple buying Tesla. And at the time, I'm not sure if at the time they'd started their whole electronic vehicle program under Apple, or
it was 2018.
Oh, when he called?
When the phone call went out.
Okay. So that was what, 2 or 3 years ago. So okay, so that was more recently. So but Tim Cook never took the call, right? He never even entertained the option of talking to Elon Musk about possibly buying Tesla. And then people speculate the reason for that is that Apple already had their own EV electronic vehicle program running that they weren't really telling anybody about. And people, asking them at the time, like, hey, why didn't Tim Cook take the call? And of course, Apple in their secrecy, he never said why. They never even talked about it. But it was reported that Tim Cook never took the call. And people, like I said, people think it's because Apple had their own EV program going. But the question at the time was, well, okay, if they didn't take the call from Elon Musk about Tesla, and we haven't heard anything about Apple doing an electronic vehicle, what's going on? So it kind of died down. And the way Apple, and Brent, when you get a chance, you can throw up slide one, or the only slide. And one thing that kind of put people at rest about the whole Apple and the car thing was in the market at the time, and it's still in the market now. It's something called Apple CarPlay, and all it is it's essentially gives if you have a display in your car, it gives your display the Apple interface. Like you can pull up your podcasts, you can do your web browsing, you can go to the App Store right there on the display in the car. So that kind of alleviated a lot of people's wondering, okay, what is Apple doing as far as a car? CarPlay was kind of their play. But it really isn't much than just kind of an interface for your phone inside of a vehicle.
And for everybody who's listening, you also have to think, when you look at Tesla, this is a company that was running on credit for years and just going and further and further in debt. And now Tesla makes money now, but you then turn to Apple, where you see, for many retail stock investors, you're probably looking at the two companies like, oh, why wouldn't he take the call? Tesla's killing it. The stock is through the roof. Apple is the biggest company in the world, and they're actually profitable. So although you may see Apple stock, and sometimes especially we know when you're a new investor, you'll gauge what you think is success of a company based off its stock appreciation, not understanding a difference between a stock that's making money and a stock that is extremely popular. So, just so you understand, Apple is a juggernaut and they have money to go for days in regards to research and development and funding new ventures.
Yeah, huge. I mean, they're the biggest company on the planet, I believe. So I think it's between them and Microsoft. Okay, so we have this this chart up, or this bullet point card here. Just kind of going to run through kind of the history of Apple and the car thing. So in 2014, they started a project called Project Titan. And initially, Project Titan was actually Apple's going to build a physical car. They're going to build like a kind of like a Model S, Tesla Model S competitor. But for some odd reason, they did away with that, and they wanted to focus more on self-driving software. A few months later in that year, around March, April of 2014, they actually came out with what I mentioned before, which was CarPlay, which again is just kind of an interface. Just kind of have your phone interface with the car. That's really it. I mean, I've used it. I have an iPhone. It really doesn't do all that much. From 2014, really to the end of last year, the whole car thing with Apple kind of died down. And as we all know, Tesla just sucked all the air out of the room when it comes to electric cars. Well, Monday of this week, Reuters put out an article that they say is wholly credible, saying that Apple is now back to working on a physical electronic car and not just self-driving software. They're actually looking to build essentially a Tesla competitor. And with that, and so one thing we talked about before when we talked about Tesla's battery day a few months back, which was huge for Tesla. The battery is actually the business, right? Because the battery is the technology that can not only be in a car, but can be in homes, can be in businesses, can be in an aircraft, it can be in anything, right? So the battery is a huge thing for Tesla and possibly Apple now too, because the report is that they have something called what they're calling monocell battery technology, which is supposed to greatly increase the driving range of a car based on their technology. And without getting wonky, basically what they're saying is the technology allows them to pack a lot more of the active materials that go into batteries into a smaller space. But in a compact space, they can put more batteries into the car that then can have the car run faster, run longer. So their monocell technology is a big deal too, right? So we have two things. We have one, Apple potentially working on a car, and two, having potentially a revolutionary battery technology. That's the same exact thing. It sounds like the same exact model of what Tesla's doing, right? So the question then becomes, one word, Tesla. That's the 800-pound gorilla in the room. What happens with Tesla, right? So this announcement came out Monday, right? And since Monday, Tesla is down 7%. For Tesla, that's not necessarily that big of a deal, but it still is.
Real quick, just for perspective for everybody who's listening, again, podcast, watching this live, Tesla is still up over 650% for the year. So understand when we say, down 7% for the week, it's up over 650% for the year, just to give some perspective.
Yeah, if you track Tesla, you know that Tesla just doesn't go down, right? Like it just literally goes up. Of course, I'm being facetious, but it's a stock that it rarely has down weeks, right? And Tesla's down 7% in 3 days, which is rare, which is kind of rare for Tesla recently. And a lot of people are attributing that to this report that came out that Apple is now working on a competing vehicle. So the question then becomes, which one is a better investment, or how is this going to play out? My perspective is that I hope Apple is coming out with a quote unquote iCar, because we all know Apple makes great products. They changed the whole smartphone game, the same way Tesla has changed the whole EV game. So if we get another kind of Tesla clone or Tesla competitor in the space, that'll just greatly improve. That'll force like GM, Ford, and all these other companies to step their game up also. Another thing is that Apple actually, if Apple's making a car, Apple actually needs this, because what's happened the last couple of years with Apple is the refresh cycles for iPhones are getting longer and longer. So what that means is we're all holding onto our phones for a lot longer. So whereas everybody used to upgrade every 1 or 2 years, I think the average now is going out to like 3 or 4 years. So they need another growth product, and a vehicle, an EV, which is we all know is the next, huge wave of the next, 10, 20 years in transportation is going to be electronic vehicles. So if they can come into the game and, kind of dominate the way Tesla is now, at least compete with Tesla on that level, I mean, it can be a huge, huge moneymaker for Apple long term, providing some competition for Tesla and all the other car makers, making everyone step their game up. So this was a really interesting story behind the quote unquote iCar, if it's real, if it's not. Again, we don't know if it's real. Apple hasn't confirmed nor denied this, but Reuters stands behind their article. They said they talked to people inside the company that Apple is actually working on a Tesla, I guess, for lack of a better term, Tesla competing electronic vehicle. We'll see over time. But yeah, so that was the mainly topic of today. But again, it covers two things because this also affects Tesla and also affects all the other EV makers as well, because they could have the biggest company on the planet could now be moving into the automotive space, which is going to put huge pressure on all the other EV and powered engine companies.
Yeah, and for people watching, listening, you're thinking, oh my gosh, is this going to kill Tesla? No. You're talking about a marketplace that's represents less than 3% of the cars on the street right now. And, if you go into, I think, 2024, you're talking about maybe reaching 30%, That still leaves a huge amount of room for competition in the, electric car or just vehicle place in general. Also to note that in the auto industry, the margins are very small. So considering the margins are small, they normally make most of their money off of the servicing the vehicle after it's been sold. Considering that, there's still a possibility that if Apple has a car, when they release the car, it still doesn't guarantee that the car will make it to market. They may determine that they're going to buy out Fisker or some other company, let them keep producing the vehicles, and then they're just going to infuse all the Apple technology into those vehicles. So it could mean a potential buyout. It could mean a partnership. It can mean a lot of things. It's still very early on. But the question that many of you might have is, what Leon just said, what does this mean for Tesla? It may cut it. It will. It's not even to say may. It will cut it into market share, but it's by no means going to disrupt Tesla. And plus, we still have SpaceX coming out. And as you know, Elon Musk has a propensity, or it's possible that companies get rolled into one another. So who knows what'll happen once SpaceX goes public?
Yeah, and this will definitely cut into Tesla's. If this happens, it would definitely cut into Tesla's market, because people that buy Teslas are also the same market people that buy iPhones, right? They like they're typically young, and they typically like to get their hands on things very early. They're typical early adopters. So because Apple doesn't offer a car now, the same buyer that buys an iPhone, when Tesla put those big iPad in, what I call an iPad, big sort of tablet screen in the car, a lot of people said, oh, it just looks like a big iPhone inside of a Tesla.
Infotainment centers.
Yeah, there you go. Infotainment center, yeah. And they have a huge screen inside the Tesla. And a lot of people are like, oh, this looks like a big iPhone now in the car. And so again, that term iPhone relating to Tesla, because again, they're kind of one and the same in the markets they serve. So if they come out with a car and it looks nice and it has all the Apple products built in, it's easy to use, that will definitely affect Tesla as far as some of their market share. But again, and let me just say this also, what it also could be is that Apple is not going to build a car, but they're actually gonna take all the CarPlay, the self-driving technology, and then license that out to car makers. So that's another possibility too, because that's what they're doing right now with CarPlay. And if they don't build a car, the speculation is that they're actually finalizing all their automobile software, and they're going to license it out. So, but again, Reuters is standing behind this article saying that no, they are coming out with a car.
Yeah, and for me, I have to say they probably would make more money licensing it out to other car manufacturers. Although it's one of those things, like you kind of want to live in the house you build, right? So, and they have the money to decide what they want to do, but personally, I think they would make more by licensing it out to other car makers than actually holding it to create cars themselves. But that's just my thought.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the bottom line, they would it's definitely higher profits. But like I said, Apple loves to own A to Z. They love to own the chip. I mean, Apple right now makes their own chip, their own software, and they build their own phones. Like they have the whole ecosystem in-house. So that's what they do. That's what they love. So, but the point you made earlier about profit margins being small, that's one thing a lot of analysts are saying. That's the reason why they will not make a car. But I saw on TV the other day, a guy said those same comments were made back in 2016, 17, sorry, 2006 and 7, before the iPhone came out, that, what does a computer company know about making a phone? Back then, BlackBerry was the king of the hill. BlackBerry and like Nokia. Yeah, BlackBerry and Nokia were the kings of the hill, right?
You remember that, Leon?
Oh, what? Oh, man, what? BlackBerry Bold, I still say the best phone ever made, but we ain't gonna go down that path. But a lot of people are saying that there's no way a computer company like Apple could make a phone, and look where we are today. Yeah. A lot of people today are saying there's no way a phone maker, Apple, can make a car. We'll see the next 3 to 5 years, if that's the case. But Apple has proven time and time again, you bet against them, you're gonna lose. So we'll see if they actually come out with a car.
And if anybody's listening to this and you're thinking, oh, well, this is a great time to go buy Apple. It was a great time to buy Apple before this. So you still have to think Apple is a profitable company. And, you leave it to a lot of these EV people, the workhorses, the quantum leaps. I think it was a couple people in that space. Was it Luminar? Luminar?
Yeah, that's the LiDAR company.
Yeah, like many of these companies are not profitable at all. And they're still their stocks are appreciating over 1,000%, some of them. And then you come into play to a Apple, they literally have the money to do what they want. It's just a matter of choice. And so if they truly hit the EV marketplace, the battery technology is what everybody's after, right? Because the battery technology is going to be the thing that eventually bleeds into the house. It's going to, start powering people's sheds and, getting people off the grid. So that battery weighs heavily on the future of just our society. And then also getting closer to green lifestyle. I still don't know, how the recycling process works for the batteries, but I know some of you all thinking, but what about Tesla? They just bought a lithium mine. Well, yes, but if you have the biggest company in the world saying we're about to build a car and go right after your marketplace, which I 100% agree with Leon, it's many of the same buyers who are into Apple products who are also driving Teslas. So if all of a sudden my watch, my phone, and my computer can all talk to my car, I don't know. It's a hard market to get back.
Well, definitely. So we'll see. But we thought this was an interesting topic for this week because again, we're talking about two of the most popular companies on Wall Street right now, Apple and Tesla. And this story, if true, will affect both these companies hugely. Definitely positive for Apple and potentially very negative for Tesla. But they're saying if it happens, production wouldn't start till roughly 2024-ish. So we're still talking possibly 3 years out before production will start. But again, the market's always forward looking. So if this were to happen and Apple were to confirm this, the stock would start rising way before the actual product comes out. Yeah,
it already started rising and Tesla already started falling. So for you all personally, I would buy in the dip again because it's similar to when the whole COVID vaccine was announced and everybody thought, oh, I don't know why, but everyone thought immediately we were going back to work or life was going to change tomorrow. And the markets just reacted. The stay-at-home stocks took a nosedive. The recovery stocks started to expand. And then all of a sudden the market realized, oh wait, it's going to take some time. And then the stay-at-home stocks began to rise again. And then the recovery stocks started to fall again. So, you might see something very similar to that with this announcement. And then the play between Apple and Tesla. So it will be interesting to watch, but I can see very easily something like that happening.
Definitely. Yep. Agreed.
All right. So we have some picks for everyone. I wanted to stay in the space of what we're talking about. So I decided to go with Blink charging. If you're not familiar, Blink charging, the ticker symbol is BLNK. Blink charging. So right now they're trading at $43.77 a share. They're down roughly 9%. Now they saw a spike earlier when all the announcements came out. So for me, it's no problem seeing them down 10% because this is such a new marketplace, and you're talking about market that's only 3% of the cars on the road right now. That represents only 3%. So we still have a long way to go when you talk about states like California announcing that essentially all vehicles sold in California in 2023 and above actually will have to be clean cars, which more likely will be EV. And so that's definitely promising. In addition to that, the credit, I think Congress just approved the credit for EV cars being sold, and that's going to, I'm sure it's going to affect how many people go out and buy these electronic vehicle cars over the next like year or two. So let me see. Yeah, that's really it for me. They don't pay a dividend. Their market cap is over $1 billion, so they're in the mid cap space. And projections, I would say realistically over the next like month, you're probably gonna see a pullback in that stock. And going into the next year, it could be somewhere in the 60 range. Purely just my thoughts, not basing that on any information I read. I just, companies like this I've been watching, and that's what I would guess.
And that's the point about EVs only being 3% of the market is probably what Apple's looking at, because I mean there's a wholesale shift going on right now in the automotive industry where everything's moving to electronic vehicles. I mean, Ford, GM have now said that they're basically converting all their factories now, their plants, to make electronic vehicles. So, you know, if Apple is doing this, they're looking at it and saying, hey, this is a massive, massive market that's just now getting started. So, you know, if they make a car, and of course they're Apple, I'm sure they can make, even if the margins are small, and I can even imagine if Apple came out with a car, their margins would probably beat the industry just because they're Apple. They would squeeze suppliers just because, you know, they want to, you know, do a deal with Apple.
Yeah,
and Apple is, yeah, right, exactly. Yeah,
factor with the car.
Yeah, right. Yep. So I mean, that's pure speculation. We don't know till it comes out, but that's one of my thoughts about the car. So, and Blink, yes, Blink is. I mean, we're talking about electronic vehicles. Charging is the next phase. The phase is going along with the cars being built is the charging stations, which are, you know, similar to the gas stations. So, for me, I picked a company named WEX. WEX is the ticker symbol. Today they closed at $203.11. They were up 1.6%. So WEX is a payment processing and information management services company. So basically a payment processor that services the federal government as well as private companies. They actually have an international vibe to them because they operate in Canada, South America, Europe, Asia, and Australia. So that does give you some international exposure. Some of their financials. So the 3-year average on revenue growth is 19.45%. And their profit growth is through the roof. It's averaging 200% the last 3 years. Now, I will say the reason it's that big, that large, is because one of those years was outsized. So one of those years was like, I don't know, it was like over 100%. So it kind of skewed the number. But for the 3 years on average, it's 200%. But I'd really realistically say that number is probably closer to the 100% number, if not a little less. But they're growing the revenue, they're growing their profits solidly over the last 3 years, as well as the revenues.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at this chart and it says the 52-week low was $71. That's insane.
Yeah. Wow. Yep. Do they have a dividend? I forgot to look.
No dividend on them yet.
Okay.
And I totally agree with Leon. You know, when you're looking at these, anybody doing online payments, I'm a fan of. I mean, it's similar to gaming right now. I just love those marketplaces. But you're looking at when your biggest client is the federal government, you're always going to have something to process. So
yeah.
If the economy's bad, they're moving money around. If the economy's good, they're spending money. I mean, it's always money in flux. And I'm guessing there's some type of fee for each exchange done on each service. So yeah, I think it's a good call.
Cool.
And so recap, Leon's call is WEX. The ticker symbol is WEX. So for anybody who may have accidentally heard wet, that is not correct.
Yes, yeah, it's WEX.
And so the
W-E-X,
ticker symbol, I'm gonna repeat it again just for clarity, is WEX. And it's trading right now around $203 a share. And again, it is December 23rd, 2020, because we know you all do listen to these through our podcast and on YouTube. So we just want to make sure we time, date, stamp that for you. And my pick for today is Blink Charging. Ticker symbol is BLNK. BLNK. And it is trading at roughly $43.77 per share. And it is again 12/23/2020. For everybody who's thinking, oh my gosh, now you guys have been putting out some great content. I would definitely like to connect with your community. You can find us at www.ieamembers.com. We've experienced a tremendous amount of growth over the last 8 months, and we absolutely are thankful to everyone who's been supporting us. And of course, we have to say Merry Christmas in case we don't see you all before Christmas.
Yep.
And tomorrow, in a couple hours, it will be Christmas Eve. For anybody doing last minute shopping, give it up. Just find something in the house, wrap it up, and put it under the tree. So, for everybody else who's watching us and listening to the podcast, you guys have made the podcast an absolute win. And the information we've been receiving and just the amount of people that are now working with their kids, talking to their parents. I was asked for Christmas to do a workshop with all of the nieces, little cousins, sons, daughters, and we're doing a financial literacy day, and that's my Christmas gift to all of my family and for all the kids to participate. If they choose a stock they want, I will buy them either a whole share or a fractional share. And so this wouldn't have happened without the conversations becoming a regular occurrence around the house, and even the fact that all the kids were excited about it because there are cousins and so forth that talking about stocks on a regular basis is kind of awesome. So we hope you all are doing something different this year for Christmas, especially for kids that are under like 10 or 15, really under 20, I would say. Just looking at how you gift to them, because the Christmas presents are great, the toys are cool, but what will it really do for their future? And, we don't want to have our kids in a situation where 20, 30 years from now, they're going, well, why didn't my parents ever talk to me about this? Because Brent and Leon are telling you all time and time again, start incorporating your kids into these conversations, because the reality is the better off your kids are, the less likely you're going to have to take care of them when they get older. And so if they can go out and they can buy their own things, they can invest their own way, and they have their own money, then you don't have to do a lot of those things. So if you need to digest it that way, the stronger they are financially, the less you have to worry about them financially when they get older. So yeah. Any piece you want to say, Leon, before we jump off?
Nah, just like you said, Merry Christmas. If we don't talk to many folks before then, and I 100% agree on the kids thing. It's very, very important that we get our kids to become financially literate at as young age as possible. So as Brent said, they can take care of themselves, in their teens and in their early 20s. Something we got to do to really cut this wealth and ROI gap. Yeah, and it was said in one of the feeds, Madison said, when money moves, someone is getting paid. I think that was in reference to Leon's pick, Wex. So that was very timely, Madison. So thank you for that. Everybody else, totally, again, will we be back on before New Year? Yes, we will. Yeah,
so
next one
more time before New Year's, and we do have a Christmas special right now. If you buy an annual membership, you will get an annual membership for free, and that can be a gift. So if you haven't found a gift to give the gift of membership to Invest in Education Academy. You can go online and just print out the flyer, tell them you made the purchase, and that could be the gift. But if we have had a number of people buying it, membership as gifts. So if you want to, until some point in the future, we haven't determined yet when we're going to stop it. But if you buy a full annual membership to Invest in Education Academy, any level, we will match any level with a free membership for 1 year. All right. Everybody, enjoy your day. Have an excellent holiday season with the family, and please be safe out there. We are still in a COVID environment.